Hey everybody, Jaws Jr. here for some rock therapy. But this one here is kind of unique. This is the beginning of a long-term project. I had Vevor reach out to me and ask me if I would like to do a review of one of their rock tumblers. So after some conversation, they agreed to send me their professional 3-pound rock tumbler. It included everything you see here. Complete grit cycles complete grit levels, ceramic, their instructions, some sample gems to run through it. But they also agreed to a side-by-side comparison. So we will be running this Vevor professional 3-pound rock tumbler, Thumblers Tumbler AR1, the Lortone Model 3A, and the Highland Park dual rotary drum tumbler. All of these I have ran multiple times. This here is this was my first rock tumbler. This was my second type. I've got 4 of them. And then I acquired this one here off of an eBay purchase for like 20 bucks. So, how are we going to do this? Well, unfortunately, I am not going to be using their grit. I am not going to be using their ceramic. We don't need this, and I am not using theirs. Their stones. This is going to be an equal test. Let me go get you the material. Actually, let me fill the barrels up and I'll show you what we're going to use. Okay, the material I have chosen for everything is simple white quartz. This is actually very similar to what you could pick up at any big box store for landscaping. I've tumbled this stuff before, and heck, I've gotten a pretty good shine out of it. So, for all things being equal, this is the best way to test the same rock in each one of the tumblers, as well as the same grit purchased from the rock shed. And that's the thought process. I am not using their grit packs, and their step 1 is 320 grit. What I use for my first cycle is 6090. So they go from 320, 600, 800, and then whatever their final polish is. I don't even know what their final polish is. At first, I am not going to be putting ceramic media in here. Now let's go ahead and talk about this individual unit here. This unit is a direct drive. So it has got the motor here, and it is a direct drive. These 3 are belt drive. And I always run this one off so you can see the belts in here. You can see that belt there, and inside here is a similar thing. So each one of them have a separate motor, belt driven. Then they have individual shafts that require bushings that have to be oil maintenance. Now this side here, this tail side here, that's pretty smooth. So, I really have no opinion on how this stuff is going to turn out. This is for you guys, and out of my own curiosity, is something like this here, this Vevor professional rock tumbler, is it worth roughly $60? Now, let's talk about some positives. The size of the barrel is bigger than the others. The thickness of the barrel is thicker than the others. It has this pretty heavy duty rubber ring on it, which adds stability, but also rides right here. One thing that surprised me, and I was actually impressed with, the outer lid is thicker than any of the others. The inner lid, this part right here, is thicker. Well, we can't see it because of the way I've got this set up. But it is thicker than these 2. This one here has a plastic lid which wears out. This rubber gasket is equivalent to what you would find on a Harbor Freight and less rubber than what you'd find on the Lortone replacement inner lids. So I'm kind of curious to see how well this is going to work out. So let me go ahead and add 1/3 cup of 6090 silicon carbide, which is my coarse grit. And then we will seal these up and start rolling for 6 to 7 days. Okay, we have these rolling. Now, let's show you what's going on here. We have a number of days feature. So we'll set that to that. Speed 1 through 4. I'm going to run everything on 1. And start. Now, from my tell right here, just off of my first time running this thing, this is the loudest one. That one there is the second, the Thumblers Tumbler, Lortone, and then that. So let's turn these off. Whoops, can't do that. And then we will go ahead and hit this again. Now, this is a nice feature here for you guys. Yes, this has a little microchip in it to control all of this. So, but if you lose power, we just lost power. It's completely gone. Okay, the power comes back on. And it restarts its cycle. So we are going to run these continuously now for the next 7 days. And what we will do is analyze each one of these. Two and a half days, actually 3.5 days into this. No issues on any one of the 4 machines. That one is the quietest one. Okay, we've hit that 7-day mark. The Vevor has shut down on its own. So we're going to shut these others down, and we're going to take them out front and get them cleaned, and then we will stack them up individually right in front of each one of the barrels and do a detailed analysis on how these handled the coarse grit. Okay, we're going to start off with the Tumbler Model 12A, or Model AR1, or whatever that is. There's the lid, and it is covered in grit still. For 7 days, that's unacceptable. So, let's go ahead and dump this out, and we're going to find out. Look at all that grit left in there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Now let's do this here too. In my world, 7 days is more than enough time for grit to be used up. Definitely don't need to take it down any further though. So Thumblers Tumbler did pretty well. So let me get the lid cleaned up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to check out the Lortone Model 3A. Okay, Lortone Model 3A. The slurry is thicker. The grit is a lot finer. And that slurry is actually almost hot because of the motor being running so hot on these. So yeah, grit is visibly smaller. That's a little bit more acceptable. So let's get this rinsed off. Did a lot more grinding action on these. So we're going to do the Harbor Freight ones next. Okay, we're going to do the first barrel of the Harbor Freight. Less even grittier than the Lortone, but there's still grit left in it. But not nearly as like it was with the Thumblers Tumbler and the Lortone units. Oh, something black got in there. The grind is about the same as what it was with the Lortone unit. So let me dump these out, and then we will get to the second barrel of Harbor Freight. There we go. The second barrel of the Harbor Freight, just pretty much the same as the first one. Same level of grit is left. I don't know if you can see that or not. If we can focus in on it, and if we can focus in on it, then you can see the little grit grains in there. The pieces of grit. There we go. The specks. So let's get these rinsed off real quick. Okay, now we have to keep in mind this one is supposed to be the showcase barrel of this process. So we will be sure it's a showcase. I again am truly impressed with how heavy those lids are compared to the others. I mean, this is actually kind of impressive. That means you can really put some pressure on that. And a bigger nut too as well, a bigger wing nut. So let's open this thing up. As you can tell, absolutely no leaking on it. That's a good thing. And this inner lid here is pretty good. And you know, for one of these types of barrels, it's not too hard to remove. Right away, the least amount of grit of them all. And I think there's a reason for that. Let's go ahead and get the colander out. And Okay. I have an idea. And I know what's going on here. So there is still quite a bit of grit left in here. The slurry was quite thicker, but I know why. Now, this barrel, get it cleaned off. Got to make a good presentation, you know. This barrel was rolling much faster than the Harbor Freight, the Lortone, and the Thumblers tumbler units were. This rolls very similar to what a National Geographic tumbler would roll. So the RPMs are much higher. In a case like quartz, like what we're dealing with here, it's not a bad thing. I could have reduced the time from 7 days probably to 4 to 5 days and achieved similar results as we got out of the other three. For certain materials, that is good. So let's finish cleaning these up. So these are actually ground down a little bit smaller than the others because it was rolling so much faster. So it had more revolutions per minute than the others did, which would cause it to grind down, which also allowed the grit to get used up and get ground down to smaller particles than the other three. So for an entry level, using white quartz, the time should have been from 7 days. It should have been down to, I'm going to say 5. That is actually a good thing. But when you're dealing with soft material, you don't want it rolling that fast. I'm going to try something. We're going to do an analysis of these closer, and then I'm not going to carry these forward because I know what's going to happen. I've already got the assumption, and we'll talk about that at the next segment here when I take you guys back up to the bench. But I know what's going to happen. And this is based on my years of experience at tumbling and working these things. Now, I've only agreed to do this review. Yes, they did send it to me for free, so I'm giving him but they also told him I was going to do a side-by-side comparison and give him an honest review. At first, the positives. This heavy-duty barrel, I like it. I really like it. With its... Oh, let's get that cleaned off. The inner lid here is about the same quality as the Highland, as the Harbor Freight, and a little bit worse than the Lortone. That metal lid there is better than any of the others. It is stronger, it does not flex, it's more durable. That's a plus. And again, this lid and the wing nut. Yes, the beast is still running. That's all it does. It rolls. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, 3 12-pound barrels. This is the core of my rock tumbling operation. Not too big, not too small. I can process a lot of material, and I get excellent quality results. Okay, here we go. Here's the individual results for each one of the barrels. Start off again with the Thumblers Tumbler Model AR1. This one here had the most amount of grit left, and thing is though, I don't see any issues. It's the most amount of grit, it rotates the slowest, it is the loudest of them all. So the second one here is the old school Lortone Model 3A. Now these are still available new. This one here just happens to be an older one. So the results did its job, ground them down. It did the grit was not as much as large. The grit particles were not as large as what they were with the Thumblers. Partially because this one rotates a little bit faster. The Harbor Freight dual rotary drum tumbler. Also Chicago Electric brand, which is Harbor Freight. And there's other ones that look just like this one. That's basically the same machine. So these all fit into that category. Again, they did as expected. They had a small amount of grit left. The grit particles were smaller than those two machines. And it did the job as I expected them to do. Now we have Vevor Professional Rotary Rock Tumbler. And this is what they call their 3-pound size. It's the model KD-C3013 or the KD-C3011. There we go. Vevor or Vevor? Vevor, Tough Tools, half the price. We will see about that. Now this one would be compared to probably the National Geographic Professional. Let's talk about the results. Because it rotates so much faster, the pieces are smaller, but there is the least amount of grit left, or the grit was ground down to a finer particle than the other three. This one should have only been ran for 5 days, while these continued to run for the 7 days, and this one maybe upwards of 8 days. So what do you guys think? Which one do you think you would want to use? Of these these 4 entry-level tumblers. Let's talk about the pros of each one. The pros of this one here. Tried and true technology. It's been out here for years. It's this one here is fantastic for delicate items such as obsidian, such as fire opal. I've processed Oregon fire opal off of Juniper Mountain from the Red October 2 claim. Thank you, Jamie Lant. And it turned out phenomenal with this. This is for delicate material, in my opinion. For harder material, it'll work. It just needs to run much longer than any one of these 3. And if you've got plenty of time, that's not an issue. It's not an issue for me. I know which each one of these will do, so I plan accordingly. Now, the Lortone. Again, tried and true. It's been out there for a long time. What can you say? This thing, all things do is roll and roll and roll. I have a buddy of mine who's got several of these. They're easy to rebuild, easy to maintain. You always know what to expect after so many days with these. The Harbor Freight did a great job, fantastic price for the value. This is half price of what this is. So it rotates a little bit faster than the Lortone. So for the really harder material such as this quartz, it grinds it down a little bit quicker. It left the grit was in smaller particles. It was ground down even further than these other two. Now the Vevor, there's several good things with it actually, and mind you, this is a surprise to me. I'm even saying this because when I got this here, this unit, and they reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do a review, I was skeptical at first. So let's talk about the positives. We already know my opinion on the barrel. I like that barrel. That is a good barrel. Another positive is the direct drive. This spins right here. You have the motor right here, and it spins these two. This is a pulley. Very easy. I mean, that's the slave side, so it's very easy to spin. You don't have a belt to break or to wear out or to create a mess underneath. You don't have individual pulleys to have to, or you don't have individual rails you have to lubricate. You don't have parts and pieces around. I mean, right now what I'm seeing is that the wear component on this is the barrel and those wheels right there. And there's hardly any wear. If you keep this thing clean and keep all the dirt and grit off of it, this might last quite a long time. So this is also the quietest of the other three. If you're in an apartment, you can run this one. These ones here, you're going to have a difficult time running them in an apartment because they're so noisy. So, with that, I'm actually surprised on that. Let's talk about the cons. Well, we talked about the cons of all these already. Those three there are belt driven. This one here has a tendency of eating through those lids fairly quickly. I bought an upgraded lid to this, which is much thicker, and it's holding up much better. The barrel design of the Thumblers is similar. So that's a pretty good barrel design. I don't have any problem with that one slipping or anything. The downside with the Lortone, this thing gets hot. I mean, I could not believe how hot this one gets. And mind you, it's been upwards of 95 to 100 degrees inside my shop here, and I'm still running these. But this one really gets hot. The Harbor Freight. This one stopped rotating one time during this process. And what I had to do is I had to come through here and clean this up. And this side over here, the bushings right there need to get taken out, cleaned up, and relubed. So I had some issues with this one. And in order to save the barrel lids, you have to install those felt pads or something similar to it. Some people will put a wheel up here to push up against the lid. There's all kinds of solutions. And I also run it without the cover on this because of the heat. The downside with this one, how fast it spins. You cannot slow this thing down enough. It needs to be slower. But let me make this clear, with some types of harder material, the faster speed is okay. It will not really damage the rocks that bad. So, with that, it is a negative that it rolls so fast for some materials, but a positive that it rolls fast for others. You, as the user, will have to make up that choice if that's what you want to do. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to hold these here up, and I'm going to show you right here on the screen, because this is going to be, I'll be honest, this is a post-edit thing, something that, or a post-production thing I have to do. I'm going to show you the prices for each one of these right here on the screen. Okay, we have the Thumblers Tumbler Model AR1. The price for the Lortone Tumbler Model 3A. The price for the Chicago Electric Dual Drum Rotary Rock Tumbler. And the price for the Vevor 3-pound professional rock tumbler. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Which one would I choose? Well, here's the thing. I roll so much in such a wide variety of material. Every one of these, every one, has their own individual purpose. Again, Thumblers Tumbler over here on the left. That one there, I really like it for my Oregon Fire Opal. The speed of it's right for that. It protects, because it's a real soft barrel. It protects the material in the tumbling process. That one does very good for that. It's slow, it's steady, but it's noisy. I can hear this thing 30 meters outside my shop. I can hear it. You can hear it sitting on top of this wood bench. You can just hear the sound of it. The Lortone 3A. A very good all-around tumbler. Great for the hobbyist, great for somebody who's starting. Really no complaints, except for it gets so dang hot. That creates a lot of worry with a lot of people. I read a lot of comments on that machine because it gets so hot. Understandable. There could be a safety issue with that with some people on how hot it gets. The Harbor Freight. Another good all-around tumbler. Just, it is what it is. It is high maintenance. It will chew through belts if you don't have things set up exactly right. You need to lubricate the bushings here on much more frequently than you do on any of the others. It is cumbersome sometimes because of the level of maintenance, and if somebody's not mechanically inclined, this could be a challenge. The Vevor 3-pound professional rock tumbler. It's too fast. It goes from 1 to 4, and the 1, it takes off. It almost wants to fly out of the shop. It's too fast. But for the price, and if you're tumbling nothing but hard material such as quartz, most agate types, most jasper. I mean, example of jasper here. That little guy right there. For tumbling that stuff, I think it's going to be just fine. And I think what you spend on it is going to be well worth it. Now, I don't know about their grit packets. I don't trust them. I just don't know. I prefer my grit and polish to come from the Rock Shed. Kingsley North is also a good supplier of grit and polish. And Johnson Brothers Lapidary is also another good source. I know there's some people who like the ones that's on Amazon and polyplastics or whatever. Fine, you use what works for you. What works for me is the Rock Shed and Johnson Brothers Lapidary. Those are my two suppliers. So, would I recommend this one? I have an idea. But first, let me tell you, we're not going to continue on with these. I've seen enough. This one here grinds down more because it's faster. These two here are very similar. That one there is less grinding on it because it's slower. We're dealing with quartz. Nothing special, nothing spectacular. It is what it is. At least my comparison has the same material. I don't see any need to move on any further with this because the polishes, the right polish will work in almost any machine as long as you have the right mix of media, your water quality is right, and you have proper additives such as borax or ivory soap or whatever the heck you want to use. So when you get to this point, you're going to roll 120, 220 grit, silicon carbide. You're going to roll that 7 days, 10 days, 5 days. When you get done with that, you're going to run aluminum oxide, 500 grit, or silicon carbide, 500 grit. 4 days, 6 days, 6 days, 8 days. And on your polish, you could use cerium oxide or aluminum oxide. Final polish equivalent of a 1400 grit or greater. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. There you go. You will end up with decent results. Media. Hold one. Media. I run ceramic cylinders with small pieces of other rock types. Yep, that's what I run. Now you see what's going to happen with this stuff. All those small pieces is going to now become media. So, final recommendation. Any one of these will work. Every one of them's got a downside. The noisiest, second noisiest, second quietest, quietest. If that's important to you, if you live in an apartment or in a confined area, you got to run these inside the house, the Vevor Professional Tumbler, best way to go, by far, because it is the quietest. Easiest to maintain, the Vevor Professional Tumbler, because it is direct drive. All these others have motors on them. I mean, has separate motors, belts, and pulleys that could break. By far, there's nothing really to lube on this one here. Probably it's plastic bushings that'll probably last for a long time. So maintenance, easiest. Maintenance, most difficult. Those two are their own unique challenges, but they all not too bad. 3-in-1 oil to lubricate the bushings in all three of these. No lubrication needed in that one, so it's cleaner. Again, the speed. If this had a speed setting to go down to like to 6 or 7, so it went from 1 to fastest, 7 to slowest, and the slowest speed was equivalent to the Harbor Freight, by far the winner. But it's not. Doesn't. The most useful all-around tumbler for your average rock tumbler are these two here, followed by this one. I have an idea what we're going to do with this. Best value, the Thumblers tumbler, probably the least value. Harbor Freight, you get what you get. If you're mechanically inclined and you can troubleshoot things, it works. The Lortone, other than it getting hot, is tried and true. It just wants to roll and roll and roll and grind and just do what it's supposed to do. Okay, I've rambled on enough. The next segment, let me show you what I'm going to clean all these up. Let me show you what we're going to do with that guy. Because as I was talking to you, I came up with an idea. Okay, so again, I am actually surprised on this unit. I was expecting it to be a much lower quality when I got it. Again, I commend them on their barrel. It's durable. I like the lid. I like the inner lid. I mean, the metal inner lid. The boot gasket, the metal boot gasket on the inside could be a little bit more robust. Could be closer to the Lortone quality rather than the Harbor Freight quality. But for the most part, the barrel, top notch. I'm happy with it. Easy to open and close. The timer on it feature is pretty cool. I had it set for 7 days. It came out here where I was thinking it was towards the end of the 7th day, and it was shut off. So that's a good thing. The speed control, I would run this on nothing but one. On speed number 4, which is the slowest speed. Speed number 1 on this thing, it is rolling so fast you can't hardly even see this. That's the biggest downside with it. The price is affordable, and it's quiet. So there's my review on the Vevor 3-pound professional rotary rock tumbler. The link for this one is in the description below. Gives you, I'm not an Amazon affiliate or anything else like that. I'm not getting any kickbacks for you buying it. My kickback is to review this, and I get to keep it. But I have an idea, and that's going to be in the next video about this. And it'll be several small videos. But to give you what the idea is, oh, at the bottom of the screen, what is that? Those who know, know. So I'm going to let you guys go. Just remember, everyone's life's an adventure. Then there's mine, reviewing this not too bad Vevor professional rock tumbler, 3-pound capacity. Link in the description. This is Adventures of Jaws Jr. Have a good one, everybody. See ya.